70-740 Lab 4 Implementing Server Storage. So we're going to be doing a couple exercises in a lab challenge, and then we'll be cleaning up the servers. Because of the limitations of our available storage in ASCSI labs, I will once again be performing this in my Hyper-V. Each student will follow along with the video lab and answer the questions and then submit their worksheet to Dropbox. So you won't be doing any screenshots, just answering the questions. So we're going to be working with our domain controller and then also server 3 and server 4. That's LUN SVR 3 and SVR 4. Our first exercise is creating a storage pool. Now, we briefly discussed this in our lesson video, but in this exercise we're going to create a storage pool using multiple disks. We do this to improve the performance and reliability of the disk system used on Windows Server 2016. You can use storage pool and storage space to use disk space from multiple disks. So we're going to begin by accessing SRV3, or rather SVR3. So we're going to log into a Datum Administrator. And once we go into that, we're going to go in our server manager on our left-hand column, and we're going to select File and Storage Services. Just need to wait for Server Manager to finish loading. Should be done here. There it is. We're going to select File and Storage Services, and we're going to select Disks. And we can see the disks that we have available. Of course, our boot disk, and then we have our 3 other disks. If we look under Volumes, we can see our C volume that's already there. If we come up to the left side here, however, we do have what's called a primordial disk. We're going to right-click the primordial disk and say New Storage Pool. You could also do that from Tasks under Physical Disks and say New Storage Pool. In this case, we're going to right-click, go New Storage Pool. The wizard comes up just like almost everything else. Let's move that up so we can see our buttons. And we'll click Next. And we're going to name this Storage Pool 01. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. And what we're going to do is we're going to select all 3 of our disks and click Next. We can see our confirmation of what our selections are. We're going to click Create. It'll create the storage pool. Should be done in just a second. There it is. And we can click Close. So now we have created our storage pool by aggregating those 3 disks together into one chunk of storage. From the appearance of storage pools, it is one chunk of storage. Let's go ahead and right-click on our storage pool 01 and say New Virtual Disk. It shows us the storage pool that we're going to use. We click OK. We see a wizard screen again. We click Next. And we're going to name this Virtual Disk 02. Now, our first question. Question number 1. Why can't you select the Create Storage Tiers on this virtual disk option? You'll see that it's grayed out. We cannot select it. Well, what does the note at the bottom say? To use storage tiers, the storage pool requires a minimum of 1 automatically allocated physical disk of each media type. So you need to have at least 1 SSD and at least 1 HDD. That's why we can't create a storage tier here. And we talked about the storage tier and how it moves the data, the most frequently accessed data each night between those 2. So our answer is the warning at the bottom of the screen indicates that in order to use storage tool tiers, you must have a minimum of one automatically allocated physical disk of each media type, SSD and HDD. If you've answered that question, we're going to go ahead and click Next. On the Specify Enclosure Resiliency page, let's answer question number 2. What is enclosure awareness used for? It's used to store copies of your data on separate storage enclosures. This helps protect your data if an entire enclosure fails. So that is your answer. It's used to separate storage enclosures. This in turn helps protect your data if an entire enclosure fails. Question number 2. Let's click Next. On the storage layout page, now mirror is already selected. However, let's answer question number 3 before we proceed. How many disks minimum are needed for mirror storage layout? Well, if it's a mirror, look at your description right there. To protect against a single disk failure, use at least 2 disks, 3 if you're using a cluster. To protect against 2 disk failures, use at least 5. So what is the minimum number of disks they specify there? 2. The answer to question number 3 is 2. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. On the provisioning type, we're going to allow it to be fixed, and we're going to say Next. And now we're going to specify the size of our virtual disk. Now, normally you'd be prompted to specify the maximum size for the fastest tier if we were doing tiered storage. So we would specify the maximum size for the SSD and then the maximum size for the standard tier, the HDD. Instead, we're going to simply allocate all the space, 32 gig, and we're going to click Next. We're going to take a look at our settings. Now, if you were doing this in your own Hyper-V, this is where you'd be taking a screenshot. We're going to go ahead and we're going to create. Should take, yep, there it's done. Finished before I could even say it. Should be done in a moment. We click Close. And it immediately rolls us into the new volume wizard. This allows us to create a volume or assign a drive letter, format it with a file system, just the same way as we do through disk management. We're going to click Next. Now we are managing LUN SVR3, and our disk is already selected. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. And now we're not going to use the full capacity. We're only going to use 20 gigabytes. We're going to click Next. On the drive letter or folder, we're going to click Next. We're going to allow it to assign drive letter D. On our file system settings, NTFS is already selected. That's good. Let's give it a volume label, and we're going to call this storage pool. We're going to click Next. On our confirmation page, we're going to click Create. Should only take a moment. And we're done. We click Close. And now, if we look here, we can see our storage pool 1. We can see there's still 27.7 gigabytes free. Here's the virtual disk 2 that we created. And additionally, if we look in our PC, there is the disk that we just formatted, the volume that we just formatted, to be more correct. That is the end of that first exercise. Let's roll into our second exercise, which is creating and configuring an Iscuzzy target. So in this exercise, we're going to create and configure 2 Iscuzzy targets. Beginning with Windows Server 2012, we could install the iSCSI target server role so that other Windows servers can provide iSCSI storage to other clients. And this includes other Windows servers. After we install the iSCSI target server role, server managers use to create the volumes that will be presented to the clients and to specify which servers can access the iSCSI LUNs. And remember, we talked about LUNs in our lesson. So still on SVR 3, we're going to go up to Manage Add Roles and Features. On our Add Roles and Features, we're going to click Next. On the installation type, Next. On the server selection, Next. On the roles, we're going to expand file and storage services. We are then going to expand file and iSCSI services. We're going to select the iSCSI target server. We're going to add the features. We're also going to select the target storage provider. That is the iSCSI target storage provider. We're going to click Next. On the Add Features, we'll go ahead and click Next. On our confirmation, we'll click Install. And it should only take a moment. I'll be back just as soon as the installation is completed. Okay, well, we were only on pause there for about 45 seconds and we're done. We're going to go ahead and close our wizard. And what we'll do is we are going to go, if we look here, we're still in our file and storage services, right? We have a new section, iSCSI, right here. Select that. And if nothing shows up, let's go ahead and we're going to click F5 just to refresh. Nothing there, right? We need to create a new one. So we can go to Task, we can do it here, but we're going to follow the instructions. It says Tasks, New iSCSI Virtual Disk. And here is our Virtual Disk Wizard. We can see that Select by Volume is already selected for us. Let's answer question number 4. With the default settings, in which folder will the iSCSI virtual disk be saved? Well, what does it say right there on the lower portion here? The iSCSI virtual disk will be saved at /iSCSI virtual disk. So it would be saved, it would create a folder C:\iSCSI virtual disk. That's your answer. Question number 4, it'll be saved in the C:\iSCSI virtual disk folder. If you've answered that question, we're clicking Next. For our disk name, we're going to make this our Quorum drive. So we're going to type in Quorum drive. There's our name. We click Next. For the size, it's only going to be 2 gigabytes. And that's all we have to specify. We're going to click Next. On the Assign iSCSI Target, we're going to say New iSCSI Target because there's nothing there yet to point to. We're going to click Next. The target name and access, the target name is going to be Cluster Group 1. We're going to click Next. And on this, we're going to select Add. We're going to add the access server. We're going to select Enter a value for the selected type. And we're going to switch the type from IQN to IP address. And the value that we're going to type in there is going to be 192.168.1.60. And we're going to click OK. We're going to click Add one more time. And again, we're going to enter a value for the selected type. We're going to select IP address. And this time, we're going to type in 172.16.0.24. We're going to click OK. Verify that we have our IP addresses that are correct. They are. we're going to repeat this process. We're going to add in additional ones. We're going to add in, enter a value, IP address 172.16.0.20, and I'm just going to do this, save myself some keystrokes, 21, click OK. We're going to add selected type, IP address, paste, 22. So we've got 21, 22, 24, and then the 192.168.0.60. We're going to click Next. For the authentication, we're going to answer question number 5. Taking a look at your screen, to provide further security, which authentication method should be used? Right there it says it. Optionally enable the chat protocol to authenticate Initiator connections. Well, so your answer for question number 5 is CHAP. C-H-A-P, all caps. If you'd answered that, we would go ahead, we would click Next. We can see our confirmation of selections. This is where you would be taking your next screenshot. Were you doing that? We click Create. And just that quickly it's done. We're going to click Close. We're going to go up to the tasks again and say New iSCSI Virtual Disk. Select by volume is already selected. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click Next. And we're going to label it Data Drive. And click Next. Then what we're going to do is we're going to give this a size of 8 gigabytes and click Next. We've already got an existing target and it's already got all those IP addresses there. So we can just go ahead and click Next. Here again, this would be another screenshot we would be taking if we were all doing the lab. We click Create. It's done that quickly. There they are. And we are going to now answer question number 6. So what is the status of the virtual disks? Well, what are they? Let's take a look and see if we can see. Is there a status? Yes. Not connected. And again, you can also see that here, your target status. Not connected. Virtual disk status, target status, we're not connected. Question number 6, the answer is they are not connected. That's the end of our second exercise. Let's go ahead and do our lab challenge. Configuring iSCSI Initiator. In this exercise, we're going to configure a server to connect to our iSCSI target that we just created. And then we're going to prepare those drives for usage. An iSCSI Initiator is used to connect to an iSCSI target. As mentioned before, the iSCSI Initiator is included with Windows Server 2016. It's already there. We don't have to add this. We're going to jump over to LUN SVR 4. We'll go ahead and we'll get logged in there. And once Server Manager comes up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select Tools, and then we'll go straight to iSCSI Initiator. That was already installed. Like I said, you don't have to do this from Add, Remove, Roles, Features. We're going to go to Tools, iSCSI Initiator. It's going to prompt us, hey, the service isn't running because we haven't used this before. The service is required to be started for it to function. Do we want to do that? Well, we can't use it if we don't, so yes. There's our iSCSI Initiator properties. We're going to click the Discovery tab up here at the top. And we're going to select the Discovery portal. For our IP address, we're going to put in the IP address of that SVR3, which is 172.16.0.23. Now, before I do anything else, let's answer question number 7. What's the default port for iSCSI? We mentioned this in our lesson, and it's right there on your screen. The default port is 3260. The answer for question number 7 is the default port is 3260. Go ahead and click OK. At this point, we're going to select the Targets tab. And we're going to click Connect. On the Connect to target, we're going to simply select OK. And we can see we are connected. Let's go ahead and select the Volumes and Devices tab and select the Auto Configure button. And there they are. Let's answer question number 8. How many volumes are displayed? Well, we can't really see what they are yet, but we can see that there's 2 volumes. See how it says volume, mount point, device? The answer to question number 8, 2 volumes are displayed. If you've got that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click OK. Now, let's go to Tools and Computer Management. When we open up Computer Management, we're going to select Disk Management. Now, let's make this a little bit larger so we can see a little bit more. How many disks do we have? Well, we've got our disk 0. We've got a 32 gig, a 32 gig, a 32 gig, a 2 gig, and an 8 gig. So we've actually got 6 disks displayed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The answer to question number 9 is 6 disks are displayed. Let's go ahead and we're going to right click the 2 gigabyte disk 4 and we're going to say online. We're also going to right click it and initialize it. We're going to click OK. And now, when we did that, what partition style was used? Did you see that? Let's go back into Properties. Under Volumes, which partition style was used? Question number 10. It's right there in the middle of your screen. The GUID partition table, GPT. If you've answered question number 10, let's answer question number 11. What type of disk is the 2 gig disk? It says it right there. It's a basic disk. The answer to question number 11 is a basic disk type. Let's go ahead and let's bring the 8 gigabyte disk online as well. And we're also going to go ahead and initialize it. We'll let that be a GUID as well. We're going to right click on the 8 gig and we're going to say New Simple Volume. In the wizard, we're going to click Next. We're going to allocate the full size, so we'll simply click Next. We're going to click Next. On the format partition, we're going to label it Data Drive. And click Next and Finish. We now have a disk drive that appears to be a locally attached disk for this server that is being allocated on another server. Let's do the same thing to our 2 gig drive. New Simple Volume, Next, 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 and the volume label is going to be Quorum Drive. We're going to click Next and Finish. Let's take a look in File Explorer. As far as this computer, as far as this server is concerned, these are locally attached disks. But these 2 disks contain storage that's allocated from another server. Okay, so we've seen how we created 2 connections to SVR3 and allocated storage to this server. Let's go ahead, close our computer management screen, and then we're going to go back up to Tools, iSCSI Initiator. We're going to open that back up. And in the Targets tab, we're going to select Disconnect. Do we really want to disconnect? We're going to say yes. We can then close our Iscuzzy Initiator properties, and we are done. If we go into File Explorer, what are we going to see? Just a C drive. The other two disks are no longer there because we've disconnected from our Iscuzzy target. Now we're going to wrap this up by resetting our servers. So I'm going to go back over to the LUN SVR3, and here again in File Storage Services Iscuzzy, I'm going to right click on the Quorum drive and select Remove. We're going to select Delete the Iscuzzy disk, virtual disk from disk, and click OK. We're going to right click on the data drive, and we're going to select Delete the Iscuzzy virtual disk file from the disk, and click OK. We're going to go to Volumes, and we're going to right click on our 20 gig drive and choose Delete Volume. Yes, we do. We do want to delete it. It's gone. On our volumes, under our storage pools, right here, we're going to right click on our virtual disk 2, and we're going to choose Delete Virtual Disk and click OK. Now that's gone. And in our storage pools, we've got our storage pool 01. We're going to right click. We're going to say Delete Storage Pool. Yes, we do. It's gone. And we're back to where we started. Thank you for reviewing 70-740 Lab 4. Please be sure to save your answers in your worksheet and upload them to Dropbox.